Thank you for joining the weekend edition of Journalist Hangout. I'm Ayodele Ozubakun. Today on the program, President Buhari orders anti-corruption agencies to name suspected looters. Senate probes federal government over Paris club refund. Turkey vows to help Nigeria defeat Boko Haram. And later on the program, 36,000 Nigerians flee to Europe by sea. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade Otitoju, Mayor Akipelu, and Ismail Omekidon. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now.
My name is Abdullahi Umar Ganuji, the governor of Kano State. I do watch journalists hang out. I don't miss it. I ask you, please don't miss it. Thank you.
Glad to have you join us. One song on the lips of those following President Muhammadu Buhari's anti-corruption crusade is for Mr. President to summon the political will to name and shame looters. Nigerians have been told that some loots have been recovered, but no one knows who paid them back. As the clamor became quite deafening, a federal high court in Lagos offered a ray of hope on the issue. It ordered the government to release the names of high-ranking public officials from whom public funds were recovered. When many thought it was Uhuru, the federal government decided to turn deaf ear. Months after the court order, the Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, says President Buhari has given the nod to do as the court ordered. What should Nigerians expect in weeks ahead, naming and shaming the alleged looters? We call them alleged looters or just stricto sensu looters, because some of them are said to have returned the money. That is like an admission of guilt.
Well, they are still suspects. It's only the court of law that can pronounce someone guilty of an offense. They are still suspects. I know that the government we have now chooses what judgments of the courts I want to obey, I want to implement. I'm not so certain that the government is willing to carry out this judgment of Justice Shagari, Diza Shagari, because I remember some time ago, Alhaji Lai Mohammed said that, look, if you go ahead to name these looters, some of them voluntarily came forward to say, look, take this money. It's part of what I stole. He's saying that if they do that, nobody will come forward in the future. So I think the government is trying its best to not worsen situations for itself. Yes, according to SERAP, the reasons for which the government does not want to release the names of looters cannot be more important than the reasons for which Nigerians deserve to know what is going on. And the court has said, look, you should even mention the circumstances in which these funds were recovered and how much was recovered from each person. But it's a difficult situation for the government. I know that the SERA people met the Attorney General of the Federation, and he made that promise to them. It may have been a political statement, just for them to for the short man who leads SERAP and others to leave him alone. You know, I don't think they are in position. I don't think they want to name. Look, it's not so difficult. This judgment was handed down in July. If they wanted to implement it, they would have done it a long time ago. So you see, I've grown used to a situation in which the government tells us this is what they want to do, And because they believe that it is in their worst interest or in their worst disinterest to do such a thing, they just waste time until you people forget about it. Another issue will come up. The Sarah people, you know, will start another trouble somewhere. We'll be talking about that. They will forget the one for which they even got the judgment. That is the way. I hope that Abubakar Malami will prove me wrong. But I think I know the man who is president of this country. I know him to an extent. I'm not boasting, but I know that as far as he's concerned, give us the money. You know what he did when he went to London, and they were saying that will he accept an apology from Cameroon? And he said, as long as that he's not interested in an apology, all I'm interested in are assets that these people have stashed in your country. I said, just give us the car. Our president was doing like this. You know, just give us the money. That is what we're after. I'm not interested in an apology. We need money to build infrastructure, to do so much. Our country, we are borrowing as little as 1.2 million. The vice president was writing to the Senate to ask for just $1.2 billion. As little as that. So if these people come up with money, they will gladly take it.
It's funny. It's funny when you look at this. This will need a lot of political will, and this will even able to cut across party lines. Even APC members that returned money, Mr. President's friends, one of his friends, I've forgotten his name, that returned money. And
yes,
we have to. We have to.
We are not talking about that one.
And publish their name. Those ones, they did not go through trial proper, but I think they just reached a kind of agreement with the FCC and they returned money. Well, political will, do we have it?
Well, even if they don't have the political will now, because we are going into election, it will get to a point they will be forced to name some of them. Because I believe that most of them were part of the previous administration. And because APC is still feeling that it could have a second shot at the presidency, and politics is war by another means. And I see APC putting everything into the game as we enter, as we prepare for 2009. So even if for now they may appear not to have the political will, I bet you, if for the sake of politics, it will get to a point they will name them. And I was saying yesterday jokingly, I was telling someone, I said, look, each time it appears PDP is gaining ground, trying to be strong, once they flash the Desiani loot, people begin to, are you sure we still support these people? The Desiani loot is so huge that each time you hear the amount, you now begin to feel sorry for the country and begin to bother. Look, even if APC is not doing well, are we still likely to support these people to come back with what has, with what has happened? During the administration? Because if you go by the list of the recoveries that the information minister read out to us, sometime this year, you discover, sometimes last year, you discover that the monies involved are so huge.
78 billion.
In dollars we have close to 150 something, million.
185 million dollars.
We have in euros, and all of that. My only concern, my only worry is that with all these recoveries, we are still borrowing. I don't seem to understand that aspect. I'm not.
Can they touch the money?
I'm not.
So it's not all the money.
Well,
that's part of the problem. It's not the money that they have.
At some point,
we have had this cash.
Yes.
And can you touch this cash? Those ones that you have?
No, some of them are even
under litigation.
They
are under litigation. But you see, at some point,
they just added everything as recovery.
At some point, government
legally, some of them have not been recovered.
But if you recall, at some point, government told us at some point that their they are putting some of the
Budgets
recoveries
on-
into the budget. So,
budget, yeah.
so you see,
As a last year budget, I think
so
they
you
made
see them
provision.
going back and forth,
Not
you know,
every
year's
over,
budget.
you know, over this matter.
Okay, Mayor.
But as we do the recovery too, I also hope that they will also be able to tell us about the state of the Ikoyi loot. You know, we are almost
Those
forgetting
ones that
about, you
Nigerians
know,
are
if it is
you know,
loot.
that is if it is
That
loot.
is if it is
If it is loot, you know, there were money was recovered from Kaduna Airport when the flights were diverted to Kaduna, you know, at the airport. I think about twice or so. We have not had anything.
Not even a lot of money. that
You understand? You know,
400 million.
No, those ones for
so
those
beyond
to change money at parties.
beyond naming the looters, I also hope that we put in place institutional framework.
That's
that
what I
will
wanted to.
prevent, you know, some of
Mayor,
these things.
I wanted to ask you, say, beyond naming and shaming them, if the atmosphere is still conducive, like they had a free time on. They were said to have had a free hand under past administration. We don't have any evidence that they are not having. And they are not continuing with their free
Some measure of free hand.
free hand.
Yes, that's the problem that I have. I think we should look at the fundamental issue of corruption and how we can stop people from looting the treasury. That would be more important than naming and shaming, because I like Jide said, I know that this government does not have the will to name those people. I don't agree with the argument of the Honorable Minister that if they name people, it will discourage some people from coming forward. I don't think we should compensate somebody who looted the treasury. And that is the kind of thing we are doing. Because if I stole 100 million and I return 30 million, I've not returned anything. I've not missed anything. What is important is for that person that stole 100 million to be arrested and made to pay for looting the treasury. But if you think, oh, we need money, yes, we need money for infrastructures, we need money for things. But if you encourage people to steal money and do plea bargain with you and return part of it, then you have not solved the problem of looting the treasury and corruption. Because people will steal. It's just now that what is important for you to steal large sum of money, so that when you are returning, what is remaining is enough for you and your dependents. And I don't think that is right.
Babajide, when you look at it, some of these looted funds, they are not in cash. We've spoken about assets, even in places like Abuja, where you have houses that you don't know the whereabouts, as in big Maitama, Sokoro area. We just see a lot of mansions and unoccupied, used to launder money. What should the government do about this? Because we were told that this is basically the case in Abuja now.
Yes, they talked about the fact that they've recovered farmlands, plots of land, uncompleted buildings, completed buildings, maritime vessels and all that. So it means that they are not just going after cash. They are aware that people have landed assets here and there and going after those assets. I am hoping that we can find a situation in which even assets abroad that people acquired with our funds, those assets, we can reclaim them and probably convert such physical assets to cash, for our country. Because I was watching an Al Jazeera story where they were mentioning who have houses in choice areas in London. You know when Cameron made that statement, I said on this program that Cameron's Britain is fantastically complicit in the looting of Nigeria. So the Al Jazeera story showed clearly some Nigerians, some of them are alive now. They are alive and their appetite for greed remains alive. So they showed buildings owned by those Nigerians in choice areas of London, and they showed how they are able, that the British system allows thieves from Africa to easily buy choice property in London. The system is weak and it ensures that you can actually buy the property through a third party, but after a while it belongs to you. So if they have that kind of system, then it means that beyond just shaming our country before the Queen, they too should do something about
their wage system.
Yes, which allows our people to go there and money that they've stolen here to be buying choice properties there. So if we can recover some of those properties in Dubai, in London,
Dubai is now
another place.
Destination now.
Yes, because for a long time they felt it was safe. And when they steal, especially our people from northern Nigeria, a lot of the thieves from that part of the country, they've opted for the UAE to go and invest what they've stolen, you know. But now that the president has hammered out a deal with the UAE government, they will regret that it's Dubai that they've gone to buy houses.
All right, after this break, Senate probes federal government over Paris Club refund. Stay with us. We'll be right back. It won't be an overstatement to see them that they would have been drenched out by now. Now, they came at a time when many states had gone bankrupt and governance was at its standstill. But now the rain is over. It is increasingly clear that the land is dry. President Buhari, on a few occasions, had to question how governors used the funds, as many states still owe workers' salary. Today, the Senate has introduced a rather interesting twist to the story. It has resolved to probe how the bailouts and the Paris Club refund were approved before the federal government disbursed them. What is really going on, gentlemen? Mayor, let me start this from you.
I don't know what the Senate is talking about. They have no business. It's not a fund that you appropriate. It's a refund, and every state has its own contribution to that fund.
The Paris Club fund proper now?
Because it's a refund.
Okay.
So I don't see why the Senate. But you see, the problem with the Senate and the House of Representatives is either they are not busy enough, or they want to make themselves relevant because they want to get involved in governance. They want to get involved in things that should be done by the executive.
Only Paris fund, this Paris fund that is involved. There was a bailout.
Yes,
Where that bailout, was it appropriated for?
Yes, I don't think it was appropriated.
But
you see, but they should have, when the bailout was done, you understand? When the bailout was done, they should have complained then.
The first time, they didn't do
yes,
anything.
They should have complained.
We've had now about
three.
Yes, including the budget support.
Yes.
So what are they talking about at this stage?
Why are they raising the point now? I agree that yes, for the bailout, it ought to have been appropriated. You understand? Because the federal government has to explain where they got the funds from in the first place, because it was not appropriated for. But they didn't make an issue of it then. Why are they making an issue of it now?
Ismail, does it matter the time they are asking this question? I thought we are trying to build institutions here. That, yes, it is not President Muhammadu Buhari's money.
Yes.
He cannot just say, I want to bail you guys out. That we have arms of government that when it gets to certain fund of government, that this other tier of government must be aware.
As a matter of fact, whether it is Paris refund or bailout, if we go by the provision of the Constitution, Section 80, subsection 4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, if I quote directly, it said, no money shall be withdrawn from the Consolidated Revenue Fund or any other public fund of the Federation, except in the manner prescribed by the National Assembly. So what this states clearly is that for any money, whether Paris or no Paris, for any money to be disbursed at all, it must be disbursed in accordance with the law of the land. And who are in charge of making the laws of the land? It is the National Assembly. I agree that when it started, they looked the other way. But if you look at the way the government also started, there were so many things that the National Assembly allowed that, look, let us help stabilize the government. One of which was the 2016 budget. I tell people that if we were in a society where law works, citizens should have gone to court to even challenge the executive for implementing that budget, because that budget did not pass the test of law. Don't forget that when the budget was passed, there was crisis over pardon or no pardon. The president now said, okay, remove this, remove that, remove that. Now, eventually, when they remove all that and they clean up the budget was never returned to the National Assembly, but was taken straight to Mr. President to assent. And that is not what the law prescribes. You know, so at the beginning, the National Assembly did everything to help stabilize the government, but maybe they have seen that in trying to stabilize government, laws are not being followed. And I make bold to say that even though Nigerians' expectations were very, very high as per, you know, having a government that will follow the rule of law, that will, you know, ensure that things are done properly. Sadly, what we're experiencing in terms of obeying law, in terms of following due process, for me, is not too different from what we experienced in the previous administration. Correct. The gravity may differ, but honestly speaking, I haven't seen any difference. But Senate, fine, let them go ahead to probe, but again, how many of the probes have they carried out and we've seen results? That also is another issue.
Babaji, is this Senate becoming overbearing?
Oh, the thing is, the Senate led by Bukola Saraki is a very vindictive one. Vindictive even against members of the Senate who are seen to not toe the line of the Senate president. In January this year, the EFCC, after investigating the 522 billion Paris